guys, welcome to Grammar for Today. We're going to be looking at page 313 and 314 today. So we're going to talk about our last type of sentence in our sentence structure today. So far, we've talked about a simple sentence, which remember is one independent clause, zero dependent. Compound sentence, which is two or more independent clauses and zero dependent. Yesterday, we talked about complex sentence. That's where you have one independent clause and one or more dependent. So remember, you have to have an introductory word. So today, the last type is compound complex. So in order to have a compound complex sentence, you take the compound pieces and the complex pieces and you put them together. If you have both of those pieces, then you have a compound complex sentence. So you have to take the compound sentence piece, which is two independent clauses. So you have to have a common conjunction or a semicolon. And then you take the complex piece, which is an independent clause, an introductory word. So for a compound complex sentence, you have to have two or more independent clauses, meaning you have to have a common conjunction or a semicolon. And you have to have one or more dependent clauses, which means you have to have an introductory word. So in order to have a compound complex sentence, you have to have both of these things. You have to have a common conjunction or semicolon, and you have to have an introductory word. So my suggestion is when you do a section like that will be your quiz tomorrow, where you are given sentences and you have to tell which type they are, the first thing you want to do is to look for a common conjunction or a semicolon, okay? If it has one, that narrows your choices down. Okay, this sentence is either going to be compound or compound complex. If it doesn't have one, then that narrows your sentence down. It's either going to be simple or complex, okay? So that narrows it down to two if you do that to begin with, okay? Then look and see if it has an introductory word. If it has your common conjunction and an introductory word, then you know it's compound complex. But if it doesn't have a common conjunction, but it does have an introductory word, then you know it is just complex, okay? All right, so let's look at exercise A here on page 313, okay? First thing we're going to do, look for the common conjunction or the semicolon, draw a box around it. Second thing you want to do, look for the subject and verbs, okay? Subjects and verbs. Third thing you want to do, put the brackets around the dependent clauses, okay? So you're looking for that introductory word and put your brackets around, okay? So number one, put the box around your semicolon that you see there after the word readers, okay? Now, let's look for the introductory word. What is going to be my clause in brackets? Right. Who was an American educator? Good. That's my clause in there. Now let's find all the subjects and verbs. What's the subject and verb inside? Who was. Good. Okay. Subject and verb of my first clause, W.H. McGuffey, published. Good. Of my second independent clause, subject and verb, books sold. Good. Number two, put a box around your comma in conjunction or your semicolon. Do you see one? Good, comma, and. Okay, box around that. Okay, now let's find our clauses. So what needs to go in brackets? Whosoever shall exalt himself, good, and there's another one. That humble shall humble himself. Good. Okay, so subject and verb inside whosoever shall exalt himself. Whosoever shall exalt. Okay, subject and verb of the first independent clause. Well, my verb is shall be abased. What is my subject? The whole clause, the whole noun clause, whosoever shall exalt himself, that is my subject, okay? All right, second independent clause. He is my subject, right? What is my verb? Shall be exalted. What is my subject and verb inside the clause? That is my subject. Shall humble is my verb. Number three, put your box around, semicolon. Good. Subject and verb in the first clause. Man knows. Good. Subject and verb in the second one. Fool thinks. What needs to go in brackets? Ooh, this one's tricky because it is an understood relative pronoun, right? Okay. You are understanding that a fool thinks that he knows everything, right? So in brackets would be he knows everything. Subject and verb inside that is he knows. Subject and verb of the first part, man knows. Second part, fool thinks. All right, number 4, put a box around, semicolon, after days, right? Okay, now what needs brackets? Do you see your introductory word? Which can fly up to 60 miles an hour? Good. Subject and verb inside, which can fly. Subject and verb outside. Pigeons have been known. Good. All right, what's the subject and verb of the second independent clause? Some have flown. Good. All right, number 5, box around, comma, and. Good. You clue words that we see. What do we see? Until, right? That's our subordinating conjunction. Until the bird reaches maturity. Subject and verb inside that is bird reaches. Good. Subject and verb in the first clause, Hoatzin is born. Subject and verb in the second one, clause, remain. Good. All right, and number 6, put your box around, comma, but. Good. Okay, now brackets around. Because it was skillful at hunting deer. Good. Subject and verb inside, it was. Good. Subject and verb of the first independent clause, deerhound, received. Good. Subject and verb of the second independent clause, it is used. Good. All right, turn the page. Now we're going to talk about diagramming compound complex sentences. Now, when you first look at that page, it looks so confusing, right? Don't let that scare you. Remember, we do little pieces at a time, just little pieces at a time, and we can do the whole sentence, okay? So remember, you always diagram your independent clauses first, okay? Independent clauses first. So let's look at number 1. Through God we shall do valiantly, for he it is that shall tread down our enemies, okay? So what is my first independent clause? Through God we shall do valiantly, right? So let's see, what is that going to look like? We is my subject, shall do is my verb. Valiantly is an adverb describing the verb we shall do, right? And that ly ending should have been a clue. Through God is a prepositional phrase, again describing how we shall do. Okay, so we shall do valiantly. Okay, now you have for as your conjunction. Your next independent clause, he it is that shall tread down our enemies. It is he. Okay, linking verb, slanted line. That shall tread down our enemies. There is our dependent clause, our adjective clause describing he. Remember, our dotted line goes from the relative pronoun to the word that it is describing. That shall tread enemies. Down is telling me where he shall tread them. Our is describing enemies. Okay, that's number 1. All right, let's look at number 2. Okay, here is what your diagram looks like as a skeleton. Again, don't let that scare you. Let's break it apart. Okay, he that gathereth in summer is a wise son. All right, let's just do that much. Okay, because we see our semicolon or our comma and conjunction, so we know here's our first independent clause. Okay, so that gathereth in summer. Ooh, that's a signal word, so that's my dependent clause. So let's find the subject and verb of the independent clause here. Subject is he. Okay, what's my verb? Did you say is? He is what? Son. What kind of son? What words are describing son? A wise. Good. He is a wise son. Now, let's do that gathereth in summer. I already have the dotted line here. It's an adjective clause. That gathereth in summer is describing he, so it needs to be connected to he. So that gathereth in summer. Okay? All right. Now, what's going to go here on this line? He that gathereth in summer is a wise son. Okay, if you said the conjunction but that is joining the sentences, you are correct. Okay, now what is my next independent clause? He, again, is, because that sleepeth in harvest. That's my, you see the introductory word that's my dependent clause. So let's do the independent first. He is son. Okay. Now, what is describing he, right? That sleepeth, right? So that's going to go here. He that sleepeth, what is it? In harvest. Okay, that's all describing he. He that sleepeth in harvest is a son. Here's another dependent clause that causeth shame. So that's describing son. So that causeth shame. I didn't quite make my boxes big enough to fit the whole word in there. There we go. Okay, so there we have it. How did you do? All right, let's try number 3. Okay, let's look at number 3. All right, independent clause first. I will sing unto the Lord as long as I live. Let's do that part. Okay, what is my subject? I. What is my verb? Will sing. Where will I sing? Unto the Lord. Okay. I will sing unto the Lord. Now look what I have next. As long as I live. As long as is one of our subordinating conjunctions. Okay. Remember, subordinating conjunctions go on the dotted line. Subject, as long as I, verb, live. Good. Okay. What goes on the chair right here? What should go on the chair? Sing to the Lord as long as I live. Ooh, look it. It is a semicolon. Do we put punctuation in? No, we don't. So we're going to leave it blank. Okay, now let's do the next independent clause. I will sing praise to my God while I have my being. So let's do the independent one first. My verb is will sing. I will sing what? Praise. Where will I sing praise? To my God. Now we have again we have while I have my being. Okay, so while, remember, goes on the dotted line, subordinating conjunction, while, subject of the dependent clause, I have what? I have being, and my is describing that. All right, so there's that one. How'd you do on that one? All right, let's try number 4. Ready? All right, here's what your skeleton's going to look like. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise. All right, let's do the first part. First independent clause. The subject is fruit. What's my verb? Fruit is what? Tree, right? What kind of tree? A tree of life. Okay, we have some words describing fruit. What do we have? The fruit and of the righteous, right, is describing for me what kind of fruit is a tree of life. What goes in the chair? My conjunction. And what is my next independent clause? He that winneth souls is wise. My independent part is he is wise, because that winneth souls, there's my clue word, tell me that's a dependent clause, right? So that's going to go down here. That winneth souls is describing he. So that's why my dotted line is going from that back to he. And remember, our chair always goes between the two verbs. Okay, how'd you do? Last one, number 5. This one is a doozy, all right? But we can do it. We just need to break it down, do piece by piece, all right? He that covereth his sin shall not prosper. All right. What is my subject of my first independent clause? He. What is my verb? Shall prosper. Good. Because that is a clue word, so it's going to be a dependent clause. We'll do that in a minute. He shall prosper. Remember, not is an adverb, goes under there. Okay, now what's going to go over here? My first dependent clause. He that covereth his sins. Okay, so that is going to be my subject. That covereth what? Sins. That covereth his is describing sins. It's telling me whose, right? Okay, so he that covereth his sins. Okay, he that covers his sins shall not prosper. Okay, what needs to go here on our chair? But whoso confesseth and forsaketh them shall have mercy. Okay, so if we look at it, my whole dependent clause there, whoso confesseth and forsaketh them, that is my subject, that noun clause, all right? So remember, noun clauses go up on stilts. So that's why I have the stilts here. Whoso, then I have two verbs, confesseth and forsaketh. Confesseth, remember, and goes here on the little dotted line. Forsaketh, okay, whoso confesseth and forsaketh what? Them. All right, so that is my, those are my verbs, confesseth and forsaketh. What is the verb now of the independent clause? Shall have what? Mercy. All right, how did you do? Did you get it figured out before I got everything in there? I hope you did well. Okay, so that is it for our grammar today. For Cyrano, remember we have a quiz today, but you're going to want to join the live Google session at 11:30. I will send you an invitation, and we'll go through what happens in the end of that act. And then after that session, then you can take your quiz and do your Cyrano reading for the next day. So plan on joining us at 11:30 for the live session to talk about Cyrano.